When Aidan was 7, he drew a picture of the sun smiling above a crooked blue house with a purple roof and a tree that looked more like a green balloon. It wasn't technically accurate, his art teacher said so, but there was something in it, something alive. His eyes sparkled when he looked at that picture. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. That was the first time he felt the pull of something bigger than school or soccer or chores. It was the moment he realized he wanted to be an artist. But when Aidan told his parents, they exchanged glances. His father's face tightened, and his mother tried to smile without quite succeeding. "That's sweet, honey," she said. His dad didn't sugarcoat it. "Art is a hobby. You can't live off of it." And that was that, for a while. Aidan's family lived in a tidy suburb, in a home that smelled of disinfectant and quiet disappointment. His father was an accountant, his mother a nurse. Their dreams were born of hardship and sacrifice. They had fought for stability, mortgage payments, college savings, job security. The idea of their son becoming an artist? It terrified them. Artists struggled. Artists failed. And they had worked too hard to watch their son throw it all away on what they saw as a fantasy. So Aidan learned to draw in secret. He sketched in the margins of his notebooks and painted at night when the house was asleep. By the time he was 15, his room was a gallery of hidden canvases tucked under his bed. He filled dozens of sketchbooks with emotion, color, and scenes of imagined world. Each page was a rebellion, quiet but powerful. But it wasn't enough. When college applications came, his parents pushed him toward business schools. "Just get a degree first," they said. "You can paint on weekends." Aidan tried. He got into a decent university for finance, mostly to keep the peace. The first semester nearly broke him. Numbers blurred, lectures dragged, and he felt like a ghost walking through someone else's life. It was during a particularly long economics lecture that he finally snapped. He closed his textbook mid-class, walked out without a word, and didn't look back. He took a year off. His parents were furious. There were shouting matches, silent dinners, slammed doors. His father stopped speaking to him entirely. His mother cried quietly, telling him he was making a terrible mistake. But Aidan stood his ground. He got a job at a local bookstore, worked late shifts unloading boxes, and used the little money he made to buy paints and canvases. It was hard, lonely, even, but he had never felt more alive. At night, he painted in the tiny room he rented above the shop. He experimented with styles: abstract, realism, surrealism, learning through trial and error. He submitted pieces to small galleries. Most didn't respond. A few sent polite rejections. But he kept going. Eventually, someone noticed. A curator from a local art space saw one of his paintings at a coffee shop. It was a haunting, abstract piece full of jagged lines and muted colors. The curator called it raw and honest. He offered Aidan a small show in the gallery's back room. It wasn't much, but to Aidan, it was the world. The opening night wasn't glamorous. Wine in plastic cups, crackers and cheese on paper plates, but it was his. People came. They looked. They asked questions. And they bought. That night, Aidan cried in the stairwell after everyone left. Over the next few years, things changed. His work gained attention, first locally, then online. He built a modest following on social media. A popular art blog featured him as an emerging voice. Sales trickled in. Then a trickle became a stream. He launched his own website, sold prints, got invited to speak on panels. And his parents? It took time. Years, in fact. They didn't come to his first few shows. His dad still called it a phase whenever they spoke. But Aidan kept going. He didn't paint to prove them wrong anymore. He painted because it was who he was. Then one day, 5 years after that first gallery show, he had an exhibit in a respected space in New York. A critic from a major magazine wrote a glowing review, calling his work a meditation on defiance and vulnerability. His parents were invited. He didn't expect them to show. But they did. His mother lingered in front of a piece he had painted years ago, one filled with childhood memories, the crooked house, the balloon-like tree, and the sun with the crooked smile. She touched his arm. "I remember this," she whispered. His father didn't say much that night. But as they left, he shook Aidan's hand, firmly, with eyes that lingered. And that said enough. Aidan never stopped painting. He opened a studio and taught classes to kids whose parents still called art just a hobby. He told them that the world would try to shape them into something they're not, but that their job was to keep creating anyway. Because sometimes chasing your dream means walking away. And sometimes walking away is what leads you home. The New York show had opened a door. Not a wide, welcoming door with a red carpet and champagne, more like a cracked wooden one, weathered and barely ajar, but Aidan stepped through it anyway. He was 27 now, with calloused hands and a face that had seen too many late nights and too few full meals. Success, it turned out, wasn't a straight line. For every piece he sold, there were 10 that didn't. For every article that praised him, there was silence from the galleries that wouldn't return his emails. But he kept painting. That much never changed. He moved into a studio loft in Brooklyn, half workspace, half home. It smelled like turpentine and old floorboards, and there was barely room for a bed in the corner. The walls were covered in layers of color and half-finished thoughts on canvas. Outside, the city roared with ambition, while inside, Aidan lived on instant noodles and passion. He began experimenting again. Not just with styles but with themes. His earlier work had been about escape, getting away from the expectations of his parents, the cage of conformity. But now that he was free, a new question haunted him. What now? One winter evening, snow falling outside his frosted windows, he sat staring at a blank canvas for hours. No sketch, no inspiration, just silence. The kind that stretches so long it starts to press on your chest. For the first time in years, he felt doubt settle in. Was this it? Had he reached his peak already? He thought about going back, home or maybe to school. Getting a part-time job that didn't drain his energy or stain his fingers in pigment. Was he selfish for choosing this life? For pushing his parents away and chasing something so uncertain? And then came a knock. It was Ellie. She had been a writer once, now a part-time gallery assistant and full-time wanderer. They had met months earlier at a pop-up exhibit in Queens. She liked his work, called it quietly confrontational. He had laughed. No one had ever described him that way before. She walked in carrying 2 paper bags, takeout from a Vietnamese place down the street. You looked like you needed food. Or a reminder you're still alive. They sat on the floor, eating silently. Then she asked the question. Why do you paint? He hesitated. He'd never really answered that honestly, not even to himself. Because I have to, he finally said. Because when I'm not painting, I feel like I'm disappearing. She nodded like she understood, and maybe she did. She had her own stories, about a father who said writing was useless, about years spent trying to please people who never read her work. They sat for hours saying little, but something in that silence was louder than words. Over the next year, things began to shift. Not in grand, cinematic ways, but subtly like seasons changing. Aidan's work grew more introspective. He painted people now, faceless figures wrapped in emotion. Isolation, hope, regret. The kind of work that made people stop and stare, then walk away quietly, thinking. One of those pieces caught the attention of a well-known gallery owner in Soho. An exhibit followed, this time solo and this time with real press. The crowd was larger. The price tags were higher. And for the first time, Aidan didn't feel like he was pretending to be an artist. He was one. He called his mother the night before the opening. "I'm nervous," he admitted. There was a pause. Then her soft reply. "I always knew you had something in you. I just didn't know how to support it." His father didn't say much still, but Aidan noticed the framed print in their hallway the last time he visited. One of his early paintings. The Crooked Sun. The Tree Balloon. Some walls take longer to come down. By 28, Aidan wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. But he was respected. And for the first time, he felt something even more valuable, stable in his chaos star. He had chosen the hard road, the lonely road, and it had brought him not just closer to his dream, but to himself. Ellie published a book of essays. He painted the cover. Sometimes they sat on the rooftop, sharing cheap wine and stories of what if. He looked at the skyline, then at his paint-splattered hands and thought, this is what they never tell you. That sometimes, following your dream means losing people, security, even your sense of direction. But if you keep going, just one brushstroke at a time, you don't just find art. You find you.